All right, so today what I'd like to do is actually just react outright to a video that Aztecross made, and I'm pretty sure it's talking about the community reaction to Bungie essentially saying, hey, seasons are now going to have that plus 10 on the power end of Pinnacle added back to it. It's been something personally that I wish they would have brought back and never got rid of, because I knew initially as soon as you remove even just a little bit of a number grind for players like me, a lot of value is lost in running some of the endgame activities in Destiny. And it's been like that pretty much since it was introduced. Full disclosure, I've watched a lot of it already, but I wanted to kind of react and give thoughts as he goes through and lays out some of his points and problems with the community request for meaningful progression and the reaction to Bungie giving it to us. So let's just see what he has to say and what I have to say about him saying it.
Whew. Fellas, we gotta talk, man. I am getting whiplash like mad. In one hand, I have many of you saying, Cross, we need more grind. We need to be challenged. We need a reset. Yes, just last week we did.
Completely true. First and foremost, a large portion of the community, including myself, has been begging for some type of reset to the game, whether that is a Destiny 3 or that is some other form of arbitrary reset. It needs to happen because right now in the game, coming back week to week, season to season, and not having too many long form progression chases to interact with doesn't feel good for a player like me.
A video and you guys were saying, hey, we need a reset within Destiny, which actually blew my mind. But I walked away from that conversation going, wow, the Destiny community, their appetite as gamers has evolved. These fellas are hungry, man. They want to grind. But then this past week, Bungie stated that they were going to be raising the power cap next season in Revenant by 10 levels. And dude, the community lost it. You guys lost it. And I'm not just talking about the folks over here on Twitter or even Bungie forums. I'm talking about people within our own stream. Everybody was dropping L's in the chat. Everybody was upset about this. By the way, these are the same individuals just a week ago that were saying, hey, the game has become too casual. We need a reset. We need to get rid of things like weapon crafting. So I think you can understand the position this puts me in. Not that I'm...
So, yeah, I mean, the community reaction, which to be honest with you, I haven't paid a whole lot of attention to Destiny's reactions probably since Final Shape. My playtime with the game drastically fell off, and I'm somebody who has, 4,000 plus hours in Destiny 2 and like 3,000 in Destiny 1. So the reaction of the community does not surprise me, but it was not something I was overly paying attention to either. A lot of the big name people who I was expecting a reaction to come out of gave the reaction. It was what I was expected as far as this decision being an L. And my response to people like that, quite frankly, is I don't care. I love playing this game, and the reason I play this game personally is to progress and feel my character getting stronger. And I get no sense of that when a season adds a few weapons that have a few cool perks, sure, but there's no major challenges to overcome. There's a new raid, there's a new dungeon, sure, but there's no power progression like to get there. The rewards I'm getting from that activity are horizontal progression. They look different, they might function slightly different, but they're not overly more powerful than what I have sitting in my vault. So the reason to run it is not there for me.
bringing feedback directly to Bungie. But if I was, hot damn it, fellas, you're making it tough. In one hand, you want to grind like your life depends on it. And in the other hand, you see 10 more power levels to grind for, and you spit on it. Keep in mind, at one point, we used to have to...
I think, yeah, I mean, I think that people just have a problem with power levels in general. And I think that a lot of people see me or other creators talk about power level and that being, something that Bungie can leverage and raise, and that adds length and play time to the game. The fact of the matter is that is it. For people out there who don't like power level being kind of like the progression in the game, that's how these games work. Any kind of looter shooter out there, you're going to find power level attached to items. You're going to find that in ARPGs. You're going to find that in RPGs. You're going to find that in even some single player games. Having an item level or a power level attached to gear is just something that helps people who don't play these games a lot keep metrics as far as progressing, what's stronger, what's better. But again, it also is a backbone system that Destiny was built off of. At least Destiny 2 and the later parts of Destiny 1 were built off of this system. So I think it's kind of a scapegoat to say it just needs to be removed. If you remove the power level system completely from the game, Bungie has to then come up with some insane weapons and incentivization to get new things, which is going to introduce power creep. It's just not a good system. I think power levels, light level, whatever you want to call it, is just a core part of games like this. It's been around for decades. I mean, World of Warcraft has an item level system. It's just a measurement system that you're going to have to deal with, and I think that the decision Bungie made last year to not increase that and to even shorten the amount of increases. Used to seasons would go up like 30, 40, 50 levels. Now they go up 10. Um, so again, it's just something for people at that upper echelon to chase and to earn. Like even if they're playing and the weapons they're getting aren't better as far as like functionality and perk wise, having +3, +4 on a weapon is to me, a player like me, something worth doing. And for years it's not been like that. If you remove that system completely from the game, I think that it would be in a very very bad state. I think it would be in a substantially worse state now if you remove power level completely, then you add, +10 each season. People just see power level and hate it. They don't want to deal with leveling. But if they removed leveling from the game, it would be a far worse landscape, in my opinion.
Grind hundreds of levels for every expansion. Hell, for seasons, we would have to grind for 50 power levels.
Yep.
This is 10 levels. Now, listen, I will agree with certain things, like upgrade modules being annoying. I do think there needs to be something in place where eventually you can go up to your vault, inject 100 upgrade modules, and boom, everything is now leveled up once you, of course, reach that pinnacle cap. The resource management in this game can be annoying. And don't
I think that that's a valid point. I think that a lot of the leveling systems and the progression systems in Destinies over the year have gone through numerous reiterations, and there's a lot of systems that came out that weren't very good. And to be honest with you, a lot of that fatigue of these power level systems probably feeds into the nature of people see Bungie adding a +10 and hating it. And then, that's probably again from a lot of the systems that have come and gone in the past, and Bungie's removed and modified, and players have had to relearn again, forget, and I think that Bungie constantly going through and trying to reinvent the wheel with Destiny. We're 10 years into the game now, and they're still making modifications to the leveling system. This is a conversation I've had a lot, with my friends who play the game and have played the game. Imagine a world in Destiny where there's never going to be any major system changes, no revision changes, no leveling changes. Imagine, like, from year one of Destiny, all of the development time from the devs has been just focused on content. Like, they never had to do any revamps to the light level. They never had to do any revamps to the ammo system. Imagine if they just got a good point, a foundation of the game, and they built off of that. I feel like Destiny in 10 years has never reached that point. I feel like Bungie is always trying to improve the game, but they're improving it in ways that don't ever end up innovating it. It's like, let's try this and change this. Let's try this and change this. Let's try that. It's been like 10 years of trying things. Um, and to their point, I don't think anything has ever really been a good sticking point. So I understand their need to try different things to appease different people who come and go in the game. But but yeah, I think that the people just see power level and light level and they immediately just kind of get sick. They're just fatigued of progression systems in Destiny coming and going. So I think that a lot of it's just an immediate response. I think that people who complained about +10 being in the game were probably going to play on season launch. People who say they're not, they're going to be there.
Don't even get me started on the glimmer cap. I know it's been raised, and guess what? It needs to be raised again. So I understand.
I don't. Why is there a cap? What? Personally, I don't get there being a cap in a game like this. Um, if there is a cap, make it high. Like what? I don't understand. There needing to be a cap. If somebody wants to try to give me a reason about, hey, there's a cap, so you can't hoard resources and have an advantage over people who just started. Why? There is an advantage to doing something longer than somebody else. Removing that does not make it better to me. It just makes it kind of stupid. Um, I would also say that a player at my stage of the game, Glimmer is kind of meaningless. It's used, I guess. I don't even know what Glimmer's used for anymore. If you were to ask me what Glimmer's used for, I have no idea. Um, that being said, times in the game where I would like to use it and want to use it, the cap has always been just kind of a stupid limit to me.
Understanding for those woes. But to me, 10 power levels over a 4-month season, which is what episodes are, they're 4 months. They're long. Fellas, that's hardly nothing. Most of us will probably get that within the first week, if you even care about getting it within.
Another good point. 10 levels is something that a lot of people are going to just naturally get from doing the things they're already doing. Bungie calls the plus 10 a pinnacle grind, but then if you look at where there is that you get pinnacle rewards in the game, you can get pinnacle rewards just from doing normal activities a certain number of times a week. I think that pinnacle rewards, um, I think all of the drops from like raids or the current end game activity dungeon raid being pinnacle, I think that's fine. That makes sense. But I think that people seeing, again, people just see power level increase, eye level increase, and they just get sick. I think it's just fatigue of the systems changing. I think it's fatigue of seeing systems being introduced and removed. I think Bungie just needs to set a line in the sand and keep it for like 5 years because they have not done that ever.
Within the first week. Something in which I don't really care about. I normally reach that pinnacle cap by week 2 or week 3 because it doesn't really matter to me to get it within the first week. There were so many people losing their mind for the power grind for final shape. But if you notice, you've had a lot of time here for that grind. And on top,
one point he brings up is that he doesn't care, and I want to hone in on that. You know, the reason that he doesn't care and that I don't care, by that plus 10 doesn't feel meaningful, I think, is maybe what he's leaning into. Like, who cares about a plus 10? And that's because that level of progression doesn't make a meaningful change or a change that you can feel in what you're currently doing in the game. Now, I watch Aztecross every now and again, and a lot of the times I see him, he's talking about PvP. Yeah, he has a big PvP community. He likes playing PvP in trials. He also equally has a good PvE side of the game too. But for things like PvP and the higher level endgame stuff, the plus 10 is not going to make a huge difference. Now, if we're talking about a plus 50, then that's going to make a substantial difference. If you tell me that a season launches and there's going to be a 50 level jump, a 100 level jump, a 200 level jump, it's going to be much more important and meaningful for players to go on that journey to be competitive in those endgame activities. That should also be brought up with that. And that's part of the problem. People also see that and say they want to do these activities, they want to have that competitive edge, but they don't have the time to put in and get that. You know, it's a double-edged sword. I get the problem with that. But acting like that 100 level jump is the same as a plus 10 jump, it doesn't make that big of a difference in these activities. Ergo, I feel a lack of a need to do it.
on top of that, even if you did reach the pinnacle cap, we've got contest mode for the dungeon coming next season. Meaning, if you're already at the pinnacle cap now, 10 more levels, it's probably not going to.
Another good point. Bungie has instituted contest mode into the game for the last few years to counteract people's grievances with the leveling system and the problems that it has. So people who are upset at having a competitive edge in things like the new raids, new activities, new dungeons, they have put contest mode in the game. They're adding it to the dungeon this time for the first time. So anybody who is an endgame player worried about it from this standpoint, your concern was just erased. So there you go.
Gonna help you. But Cross, be real. Isn't this just a way for Bungie to boost engagement metrics? Look, that was a tweet put out by my friend Kujay. He stated right here, going back to requiring power increases for seasons and episodes after the removal of such was so widely celebrated amongst the community is a huge slap in the face. At least be honest about why you're doing it. That is a naked attempt to boost player engagement metrics.
I think there's truth to this. Well, there's absolutely truth to this because when I first heard that Bungie was removing the plus 10, my immediate thought was, well, player retention is going to go down. And that's just true. Now, I understand the community's celebration for removing the plus 10 because, again, a lot of people, I think, have a general misunderstanding or about the power level and the impact that it has. If you're at those upper echelons of power where a +5 delta is going to make a difference on your performance, then you're just min-maxing crazy. You're at the end of that pinnacle echelon of gaming as far as Destiny is concerned. I do think that a lot of people see the plus 10 and probably do just say it is a way to boost metrics, but I mean it is probably that's probably true because Bungie should have known, and maybe they did know going into it, whenever they removed this grind from the game, that people aren't going to be there to grind it anymore. I actually made a video talking about the removal of plus 10 and how it removed just one pillar, kind of the only remaining pillar for players like me to play these end game activities week after week. Um, used to seasons would come out, I would already be at powerful cap or pinnacle cap from the previous season, and that plus 10, it gave me a reason to run the weekly raid, it gave me a reason to run the dungeon, and it gave me a reason to do that for a few weeks to the end of the season. Additionally, I think that the Grandmaster Nightfalls, I don't want to say required you to have the plus 10, but there was maybe a benefit in doing it. I can't remember exactly. I think it just lets you get to the ability to get Grandmasters easier if you had that plus 10. Um, so again, I mean, there's benefits to having that plus 10 there from like the ultimate grinder perspective, like me. But I do think that Kuj here is reaching into a bag that has a lot of truth in it. That Bungie's probably trying to do it for engagement metrics. But if I'm also being equally as true and reaching into the same bag of truths, Bungie never should have removed it in the first place. So it's kind of like sunsetting, where they put it in the game and now they're taking it away, and everybody's like, "Oh, be honest why you're doing this. You were wrong." Yada yada yada. It's the same kind of thing. It's like, just, yeah, what you did here was wrong. As far as them saying why they're doing it, they're never going to do that. But yeah.
He then followed up by saying, "Hey Bungie, since you're bringing back seasonal power increases, can we get an update on your progress to address pinnacle power slot imbalances?"
I'm going to speak from experience, and maybe my experience is very biased. I have never had a problem with the pinnacle slot power imbalances ever in the game as bad as it was in Destiny 1 Year 1 with the Forever 29. Ever since then, I've never had a problem with it. Now, there have been times where I have got repeat pinnacle drops to drop that were not in the correct slot. Sure. But again, going back to my previous point, the way that power level works in this game, a lot of people have a misunderstanding on. Now, if we're talking about Destiny 1 leveling and the way that it worked in that game, that's different. The difference between 29 and 30 was substantial. But in Destiny 2, the difference between a 2009 character and a 2010 character is so little that the extra slot is there just to say I have 2010 in every slot. So pinnacle power slot imbalances, sure, it's annoying, but it's not like it's not like a hey, let's fix this first instead problem to me anyway.
It's been 4.5 years. Now, Jay does have a point about the slot imbalances, meaning if you have a situation where all you need is a helmet, things should be weighted as such where a helmet would drop. I thought Bungie did address this at some point. Perhaps them just acknowledging it was my way of thinking they addressed it. RNG protection is important, and if you're in a situation where you're like, dude, I just need a helmet to reach that pinnacle cap, and you keep getting gloves, chest pieces, boots, class item, everything but a helmet, then obviously that's a problem. Now, Jay wasn't the only one. Paul Tassi even came out and said, yeah, no, thank you. We're all good here. Another player even saying, so this is what we call desperate for playtime. Increase a number grind. Lol. Now listen, fellas.
Yeah, and Paul Tassi is one of the people that I expected to probably have that kind of reaction. I've watched and listened to a lot of his discussions on Destiny. There's a lot of things I disagree with. There's some things I agree with, but I'm just of the variety. I like to get everybody's takes and look at it. In a similar vein, Paul plays Diablo, or did play Diablo 4 recently, and Diablo has a eternal structure where there's a permanent version of the game where you level pretty much once and you have that stuff forever. There's a seasonal version of the game where you reset and leveling is redone again through some new mechanics and stuff like that. And Paul is of the variety where he did not like the idea of resetting and the leveling. So I think Paul is just there. He's of that crowd who doesn't like to level again, which is fine. That's a kind of way you want to play the game. Sure, you're completely entitled to playing it that way. Um, Again, I'm not sure the whole reason for the plus 10. If people just see the number on their characters not that high and it's a problem, I mean, I guess I have part of that in my mind, but a bigger part of my mindset and why I stopped playing recently is that I can do everything in the game with the power that I have right now. So the reason for getting that plus 10, um, there's a reason there, of course, which is getting your character to that max level number, which feels good to have. But from a gameplay efficiency power perspective, you're not going to be noticing a huge difference between a 2005 and 2010 character. That's just the truth of it. 10 levels isn't going to make a huge difference. So people complaining about it, again, it's just the number game. If Bungie had a plus 50 or a plus 100, as I've said, that's a different story. But plus 10, I think people are just yelling to yell.
I get it. This is the classic Bungie giveth and taketh away. But I gotta
Yep.
ask the question, fellas. At what point did we as the Destiny community become so goddamn casual? Hold up, fellas. I'm gonna be elitist right now. 10 power levels? I got day one raiders out here saying they can't do 10 power levels. From dual Destiny getting shit on and saying, oh my God, it's too much to find one other person to run a mission one time, to folks pissing on themselves because they can't get a raid item to drop despite us having options in the game available to us to increase our RNG if you do those triumphs. The reality is, fellas, we are going back in the direction of D2 vanilla.
Yeah, this pretty much anytime the Destiny community opens its mouth, the response that needs to be said to them is pretty much what Aztecross just said. There is a growing concern that I have with the decisions and the community sentiment towards the game that is going to push Bungie to making it more towards D2 vanilla. Um, that's just the way that I feel about it because of a lot of the decisions and stuff like that. But it is true that pretty much any time the Destiny community is heard, it is the casual player base speaking up about things, um, or mouthpieces for the casual speaking up as far as what's going on in the game. But yeah, 10 power levels is nothing. And it's pinnacle power. If a player is worried about those 10 levels that much, they're probably at a point where they can get it pretty easily. If you don't understand the value in those 10 levels, you're probably not going to be at that point where you can run and get them anyway. So it's kind of like a either you're in the situation, you know how to solve it, or you don't, so you shouldn't really be yelling about it being a problem, is the way that I see it. Again, you're entitled to your opinion, you're entitled to how you want the game to work, but if you're not interacting with those plus 10, and if that plus 10 doesn't make a huge difference to you, getting upset about it, again, just doesn't really make a difference to me or anybody else who cares. So, and the whole dual destiny thing, I ran dual destiny with a friend that I've played the game with for years. I ran it one time, and from there I've not ran it again. I know a lot of people are upset about having to run it, and it not being a solo accessible activity. That's just tough. That's just tough. You know, there's nothing much you can say about it. You can go cry because they're trying to make a game that at its heart is cooperative, and that means that some things you're going to have to do cooperatively. Raids require 6 people, in case you didn't know. So, you know, I guess suck it. There's not much you can say.
Have you seen the amount of exotics you have in your inventory? It's insane.
Yeah, this is stupid. He's going to make a point about exotics being like candy and not caring about them. I have felt this way, honestly, I think, since Destiny 2 launched. The moment that the Destiny 2 beta had you playing with new exotics, that immediately got me concerned that they were going to be more of a in every build kind of situation. In other games out there, items that are at exotic levels of strength are very rare. And if they're not very rare, it's because there's literally hundreds, if not thousands of them. So getting the one you want would be very hard. I think Bungie's probably leaning more into that latter situation where there's so many of them. Let's just give you all the time. But for one, weapons don't have any random roll capabilities except most of them. So getting exotic armor that is not really randomized is weird. I don't know. I feel like getting that exotic to drop that is the one you want. Those moments in Destiny 1, there's probably not ever been a time like that in Destiny 2 unless it's with a raid drop. You know, when you get the raid weapon to drop like Touch of Malice, Vex Mythoclast, there's the Eyes of Tomorrow, there is the Pulse Rifle from Root of Nightmares, or what, not Root of Nightmares, but Vow of the Disciple. That, like, those are probably the only moments in Destiny where like getting an exotic was something to get up and get excited about. Um, the Endgame system is also something that I personally have a problem with. I liked it in Destiny 1 where if an exotic dropped, you would get it. And then if it was like a legendary weapon or a helmet or something, you can bring it back and get it. Anyway, the Engram system. But yeah, legendary and the reward system in Destiny needs work.
We are heading in that direction, if not already there, with Destiny being so casual. We have a checklist of things to do. Everybody gets on, they grind their little red borders, they get their deep side harmonizers from their battle pass, they get the weapon pattern, and then they get the weapon at the crafting, and now that's it. Now here's the thing. Some of you are gonna say, Cross, you're being toxic right now. You're a streamer, you get to play this game whenever you want. I should be able to keep up with you. And my reply to that is lick my ass. Les, who works a 9 to 5 every day, who positively contributes to society. He's got a dog, he makes it to Maverick games, he's got a fiance, and they have date night every Friday or Saturday. Listen, Les is not supposed to be able to keep up with me. I'm just leveling with you fellas. You see, what Les experience should be is while he's on date night, he's rushing through his entree. He's telling his fiance, honey, we're gonna have to skip dessert. She gets frustrated on the way home and says, why? Why did our lovely evening get cut in half right now? And that's when he holds her hand and says, darling, I'm sorry. I had to make sacrifices this evening because Cross got that incandescent heel clip roll aberrant action, and he's having the time of his life. And
As far as there being moments in Destiny or chases in Destiny that kind of pull you out of your life responsibilities, speaking personally, Destiny 2 has only done this a handful of times, and it's really during the day one races, where you have to obviously get time off for those. As far as somebody getting a weapon and then me grinding the game more to get it, maybe, like I said, handful of times. This was something more prevalent in Destiny 1, as far as somebody getting something cool or there being something to experience, and I wanted to be the first person to do it or see it. Destiny 1 was out a long time ago, though. That was when I was in high school. I had a lot less time on my hands. But yeah, as far as Destiny 2, like, there being things that somebody gets that you're excited to chase and get and experience with them, those kinds of moments don't happen ever, really, because somebody who gets something that's cool and efficient in this way is equally as efficient and cool as something you have that does it this way. So I don't know. As far as like the balance that Bungie has to strike between something being flashy, efficient is cool, and cool with exotics and special weapons, it's been something that they've always tried to, I guess, work their way around without introducing power creep. Power creep's always the problem of introducing new crazy things, but there's not been moments like what Cross is describing in Destiny for a very long time.
And right now, at this very moment, he's assembling a raid team to go far for that Chaos Reshape Nullify. And sweetheart, I could spend this moment with you right now. But just know, if I did, in my heart, I would not want to be here. In my heart, I would want to be grinding for thy loot. And the last thing I want to be is insincere to you. That right there, my friends, is called sacrifice. So what? Les ends up divorced 3 years from now because of Destiny. It happens, fellas. We all have to make our decisions. But instead, Les doesn't have to worry about that. He doesn't skip dessert. He continues to stay out with his fiancée. They have a lovely evening. He continues to contribute positively to society. And when he logs into Destiny, well, he's pretty much identical to my character. And
That's exactly true. Somebody who has spent less than 100 hours in the game in a few tens and 20 of hours could reach the same level of efficiency, plus or minus 10%, 15% maybe, as a person who has spent 4,000 hours in the game. I could tell a new player right now who has never played the game how to get weapons and armor within a few days that match the same level of efficiency and potential in endgame activities as the gear that I've collected over 5, 6, 7 years, 8 years. And that is, to Cross's point, no bueno. There needs to be things that players who have played the game for a much longer time have benefit over these newer players. There needs to be advantages for people who play the game longer, who can sink more time in it. There's nothing in life where sinking more time into something does not give you an inherent advantage over somebody who has not put as much time in it. That's just the truth of the matter. That's the way life is. It sucks. I guess I understand Bungie's mentality on saying this is not life, this is a video game. If you're new or old or you played a long time, you can do anything. It just doesn't feel good for people who want to sink a lot of time into the game because there's no ceiling, there's nothing really to progress and go after, at least to me and to what Cross's point sounds like.
And that's no bueno. 10 power levels, fellas. This is such a small thing in the grand scheme of potentially getting Destiny to where it should be. Yet folks are losing their mind. So I ask again, when did we as the Destiny community become so motherfucking casual? Dude, Destiny's becoming so routine now. People have like this mental checklist they do every week. They log in on Tuesday, they check the Eververse store, they do the weekly story. They don't grind for anything because they already got red borders for everything.
or everything they have already accomplishes what they need to do. So why would you grind it for anything if you can already beat all the activities in the game, unless it's there for the collection purpose? And if you're just grinding for the collection purposes, you can get everything you need to collect in like 1 or 2 runs of the new activities. Um, Shout out to Coraline, by the way.
They save up deep side harmonizers for getting any potential weapon boards that drop. They're maxed out on exotic Ingrams. Exotics literally are meaningless. They're so meaningless now that they shouldn't even be called exotics. What
Yep.
happened to the day where that guy in the opposing team would annihilate you and your entire squad? And you ask yourself, how did he do it? How does he have an overshield? How does he see me through walls? That's one-eye mask, bitch. That's how he did it.
Shout out to the Forsaken era when stuff like this was in the game and cool, and there was a lot more exotic, I guess, mysteriousness around Forsaken. First off, Forsaken put like 20 or 30 new exotics in the game, which we've not got any injections of exotics like that since then. But yeah, the things that were in Forsaken were new levels of power creep, and they were exciting and they were awesome to chase, and that was a cool time that many people reminisce on as being the best in Destiny. Um, but of course, there's problems with doing that all the time. Bungie cited that this was back when Activision was running them. They couldn't release Forsaken-sized content all the time, power creep and development crunch, and yada, yada, yada. But it's funny that every time people talk about the good times in Destiny, it's about Forsaken, it's about things that come for Forsaken, and we're the Taken King in Destiny 1.
And guess what? He's gonna do it again and again. And you ask your friend, how? How do I get such an exotic? And they would reply, use code Aztecross at gamersubs.com to increase your...
Yeah, but basically his point is, how do you get one-eyed mask? You get it randomly. And you know, nowadays you can go to Raoul and you can pick it. You can pick the one you want. I know there's rules about what you can and can't pick from Raoul as far as an exotic. You have to either have gotten it before or something, something, something. But if you wanted a better rolled one, I don't know. But the point that Aztecross is making is that attaining things in Destiny that make people stand out has become such a short journey that the players who have those items aren't unique. They don't pop off like that because everybody has it.
RNG. And even though the marketing of this is very important, and this is a small shout out to one of our sponsors, I'm not gonna lie to you fellas, it didn't help. Code Aztecross didn't help. RNG was fickle. I bought the crystals. I went to a lady. I said, hey, oh tatted up, dreaded lady in the West, how shall I increase thy RNG? And dude, no lie, I walked away with 2 crystals, both of which were $40, which seemed extreme. But she said it would increase my RNG. Now I know you're probably thinking, that's crazy, Cross. Crystals, increasing your RNG without charging it with sunlight? How foolish of you. But no, really guys, we will go to great extent to get to a point where something will drop for us in this.
The point he's making here is completely valid. The playtime and the amount of hours synced into the game back when one-eyed masks completely dominated the lobby in PvP was probably substantially higher than what it is today, because you can get exotics, you can get weapons in much shorter lengths of time than you used to have to. People would spend hundreds, if not thousands, of hours chasing for weapons in Destiny 1 exotics to drop because they were such a more of a scarce commodity. People who got Galahorn in Destiny 1 were genuinely lucky, very, very lucky. And in Destiny 2, a lot of the best things in the game they put behind quests and guaranteed routes to get them, which, you know, isn't a major problem. But it's just that moments like what he's describing, where One-Eyed Mask popped off in Forsaken, they don't happen a lot because Bungie has placed these avenues to get these items behind very deterministic grinds or quests that you can get them very easily. And this all kind of goes back to the community becoming more casual and hating any kind of long form progression, hating the fact they have to chase things, they have to level up for things. They want it all immediately because it looks cool. And the point and problem is that if everybody has it, doesn't look cool, and a lot of the times Bungie has to nerf it.
This game. And that's because we desire that thing. I bought a money tree. I held it every time we killed Atheon. Do you know how hard it is to do DPS with a money tree in your hand? And guess what? Vex Mythiclass dropped. The point is I wanted that drop. Let me ask you, when was the last time you truly desired anything within Destiny? This game has lost that aspiration for greatness. It has given us this checklist of things to do. And I know Bungie says it's because we need to make the game more penetrable so that new players would find penetration. But the only thing getting penetrated around here is is my gaming experience asshole. And not in a good way. When an exotic used to drop on the ground, I would jump for joy. When that palindrome dropped with rangefinder and quick draw, I knew the stars had aligned. And when you fuckers made me delete it, I wept. For weeks I wept, as it should be. This loot should be so coveted within Destiny. The power fantasy should be so envied that you, despite having a family and loved ones, you start looking for things to sacrifice.
Yeah, as dramatic as Aztecross is making his point here, it is entirely true that loot and things that you chase in this game should come at the sacrifice of putting a lot of time, or having a lot of hours, or being just extremely lucky and having your friends hate you because of how lucky you are. There has to be a cost to getting cool stuff in Destiny, and for a long time, there's just not been any kind of associated cost or journey towards getting anything. I will say some of the cooler things in the game do have some annoyances hidden behind them. For instance, the Kabastov quest from the latest expansion had a pretty lengthy quest. But yeah, I mean, as far as his point, with getting, the silly rituals for getting Vex Mythic class to drop because of RNG was being such a low thing, there were, I don't know, there was a magic about Destiny when things like this would happen so rare, or there would be, very long pathways to acquire this kind of stuff. And I think that the ease of getting everything in the game and making these kinds of things easier, in Bungie's own words, making the game easier for new players to understand. Um, First off, I don't think that has any association with making drops easier to get. I think that's a gross misunderstanding, or association they're making, if that's valid. I don't actually remember them making a comment about making loot easier to get for easier for new players to understand. There's all kinds of players who play other games out there with more loot than Destiny and harder to get loot, and they understand the game just fine. But anyway, to Aztecross's point, when's the last time you genuinely chased or won anything in Destiny? And I can tell you right now, it's not been for a long time. And if there has been something, it's been from a collection perspective. Um, I personally am wondering why a lot of the raid weapons have sucked, just been bad. And if they're not bad now, they were probably bad when they came out and Bungie buffed them. Eyes of Tomorrow was bad when it came out. The pulse rifle from the Vow of the Disciple was meh when it came out. Vex Mythoclast was it was good. It was meh. It was good again. They balanced it back and forth. The Legend of Acrius was kind of meh when it came out. Like these, even the things that I just described a little bit ago as being like some of the most exciting moments in the game for drops, ended up just being sucky. The reason I was excited is because it was a low drop chance to get them. But yeah, to Astrocross's point, when's the last time you got excited or you really just yearned for something in the game? It's been a long time for me. I'm sure it's been even longer for most of you.
Because it's got.
I have not attempted to get the trace rifle or the linear from the new raid. It looks good. It looks probably better than most of the raid weapons we've got. But again, I can beat everything in the game without it. It doesn't give me a huge level advantage over anything in the game. So my ability and my want to chase that just doesn't exist.
Goddamn worth it. Families come and go, fellas. But what you earn in video games stay forever, unless it gets sunset, or in the worst case, shut down. But the point I'm trying to make is, I have not cared about anything in Destiny for a very long time. I've got this cheesy chore list bullshit that means nothing in the grand scheme of things. I get you all have balanced lives, and I respect you for that. But in order for Destiny to be successful, hell, in order for any game to be successful, the degenerates, dare I say, we, the degenerates, should be rewarded.
Yeah. He's completely right. He's completely right, and it's points I make in videos that I've discussed. I've got lots of videos on talking about what I think is good about the game, what's bad about the game, and ways to improve that. But as far as this video in particular, everything he talks about in here is something that community needs to hear anytime they ask for something, because usually if they ask or complain about something, there is a immediate this looks bad, but then if you break it down, it's a long-term good thing for the game. And I do think that Bungie, as the creators of Halo, and they created Destiny, which had that magic of the beginning era of the game, and they've moved it towards a more casual pacing in Destiny 2, and Destiny 2's been out for, I don't know, what, 8, 9 years now. 7 years, and that's not been that long. It's been 7 years, 8 years. Um, but yeah, the game needs to change and move in better directions. And the community has been pussyfooted into a casual is okay mentality for the game, and for this game to really succeed and pull people like myself into it like it used to, there needs to be a movement more towards the grinding part of the game. There needs to be more incentive to play the game. The rewards need to be better, and a lot of those things can't happen with how the game exists now. But yeah, as far as this video goes, good video from Aztecross. Pretty much everything in the video I agree with that he said. And the reaction he has to the community's outrage is spot on. Call it elitist, call it not considerate of casuals, call it whatever you want. It's right. It's the correct way the game needs to be understood and operated on for it to continue being the game. Otherwise, it's going to continue to have the lowest player count in existence if things like what he's talking about aren't validated and addressed by Bungie and the community at large. So, there you go.